My disabled daughter's scream made my blood freeze. I ran outside to find her hanging from a street lamp, the HOA Karen taking photos below. "This is what happens when you break rules," she shouted. Before watching full videos, comment below from where you watching. Also like and subscribe for more stories. Take that ugly banner down now. I turned around to see Mrs. Baker, the HOA leader, walking fast toward us, her face red with anger. My daughter Sarah, who was in her wheelchair, dropped the birthday sign she made for me. Her hands were shaking. "We're just having a small party for my birthday," I said calmly. Inside, I was getting angry, but I tried to stay calm. As an FBI agent for 15 years, I had dealt with worse people, but something about Mrs. Baker made my blood boil. "You didn't get permission." Mrs. Baker waved a paper in my face. "No decorations allowed without HOA approval. It's in the rules." Sarah started to cry. "But it's Dad's birthday." "I don't care whose birthday it is," Mrs. Baker cut her off, not even looking at my daughter. "Rules are rules. And that wheelchair," she pointed at Sarah's wheelchair with a look of disgust, "should be kept inside. It makes our street look bad." I stepped forward, my voice very quiet but firm. "Mrs. Baker, please leave our yard now. And never talk about my daughter like that again." Mrs. Baker laughed, a cold, mean laugh. "Or what? I run this neighborhood, Agent Wilson. Your FBI badge means nothing here." She turned to my daughter. "You have 30 minutes to take all this junk down, or I'll remove it myself." As she walked away in her fancy shoes, I knelt beside Sarah, who was crying quietly. "It's okay, honey," I whispered, wiping her tears. "We can move the party to the backyard." "It's not okay, Dad," Sarah said, her voice stronger than I expected. "She always does this. Last month she made Mr. and Mrs. Chen take down their Chinese New Year decorations, and before that, she made Mr. Johnson remove his rainbow flag. She's mean to everyone who's different." I nodded, knowing my daughter was right. For 2 years, Mrs. Baker had used HOA rules to bully anyone she didn't like. Despite many complaints, the board, filled with her friends, had done nothing. "Let's enjoy your birthday, Dad," Sarah said finally, forcing a smile. "Don't let her ruin it." We moved to the backyard, where a few neighbors and my work friends joined us. The party went on, but I could see Sarah was getting quieter as time passed. My friend Tom, who was also an FBI agent, came over with a drink in his hand. "That Baker woman giving you trouble again?" he asked quietly. "Yeah," I sighed. "She threatened Sarah this time. Said her wheelchair makes the neighborhood look bad." Tom's face got red with anger. "She's crossed a line, Mark. Last week she left a note on my door saying my son's basketball hoop was unapproved sports equipment. The kid is just trying to practice for the school team." I wasn't surprised. She's been bullying everyone for 2 years now. No one stands up to her because her husband is a judge. "Judge or not, what she's doing isn't right," Tom said. "You know, we've been hearing rumors about Judge Baker at the office. Some of his rulings don't make sense. Letting dangerous people go free for weak reasons." I nodded. "I've heard the same. The corruption team has been watching him, but they don't have enough proof yet." Around 4 p.m., Sarah said she was tired and wanted to rest. After the cake and presents, I helped her inside and made sure she was comfortable before going back to our guests. 20 minutes later, I heard a terrible scream. I ran into the house and followed the sound to our front yard. What I saw made my heart stop. Sarah was hanging from our street lamp, her wheelchair knocked over below her. Mrs. Baker had used Sarah's wheelchair straps to hang her 6 feet off the ground. Sarah's face was red as she tried to free herself, crying for help. Below her stood Mrs. Baker, taking pictures with her phone. "This is what happens when you break HOA rules," she shouted to the shocked people watching. "Let this be a lesson to all of you about following rules." In all my years at the FBI, I had seen terrible things, but nothing prepared me for seeing my own child treated like this, used to scare others. I ran forward. "Get her down. Now!" I shouted, reaching up to support Sarah while Tom and another agent rushed to help. "Oh please," Mrs. Baker rolled her eyes, stepping back. "She's fine. Just teaching her a lesson about respect. Kids today need to learn." We carefully got Sarah down. She fell against me, crying hard. "She said I was making the neighborhood ugly," Sarah whispered. "She said I should be hidden away." Something broke inside me in that moment. I gently gave Sarah to Tom, and turned to face Mrs. Baker. "You have 3 seconds to explain yourself before I arrest you," I said, my voice deadly calm. Mrs. Baker laughed. "Arrest me? For what? Enforcing neighborhood rules? My husband is Judge Baker. Touch me, and your job is over by Monday." I pulled out my phone and showed her the video my home security cameras had sent to my phone. The video clearly showed Mrs. Baker approaching Sarah as she sat alone in the front yard, yelling at her, then lifting her from her wheelchair and hanging her on the lamppost while my daughter begged for help. "Mrs. Baker, you're under arrest for assault and hurting a disabled child," I said, as 2 of my friends moved to hold her. Mrs. Baker's face turned white. She looked around, suddenly realizing she was surrounded by FBI agents who had been at my party. "This is crazy. I was enforcing HOA rules." Mrs. Baker screamed as Tom read her rights. "Do you know who my husband is? You can't do this." Our neighbor Mrs. Rodriguez, who had been watching from her porch, stepped forward. "I saw everything," she said. "I've been afraid to speak up before, but not anymore. She's been terrorizing all of us for years." Mr. Chen from across the street nodded. "She threatened to fine us $1,000 for our Chinese New Year decorations. Said they were too ethnic for this neighborhood." One by one, neighbors started sharing stories of Mrs. Baker's bullying. It was like a dam had broken. As Mrs. Baker was put in a police car, I went back to Sarah, who was being helped by Mrs. Collins, a neighbor who was a nurse. "She's shaken up, but not hurt badly," Mrs. Collins said, checking Sarah's arms where the straps had been. "She's a brave girl." "Is she going to jail, Dad?" Sarah asked in a small voice. "Yes, honey. For a very long time," I promised, holding her close. "No one will ever hurt you like that again." That night, after all the guests had gone home and Sarah was asleep, I sat in my home office making calls. First to my boss, Director Jenkins, who was furious when he heard what happened. "Wilson, I want you to lead this investigation personally," he said. "If Judge Baker is dirty, and his wife is assaulting disabled children, I want them both behind bars." The next morning, while Sarah was still sleeping, I gathered a team at the FBI office. By noon, agents were searching the Baker's home, the judge's office, and the homes of all HOA board members. What we found shocked everyone. Judge Baker had a secret bank account with millions of dollars. He had been taking money to free guilty people. Mrs. Baker used the HOA rules and fees to help hide the money. They made millions of dollars this way. We found a notebook where Mrs. Baker kept track of problem neighbors she wanted to drive out. Sarah and I were on the top of her list. She had written, "Wilson, FBI agent, too nosy. Disabled daughter, eyesore, find way to remove." The story was on all the news, FBI agent's disabled daughter attacked by HOA president in major crime case. The Bakers were facing charges that would put them in jail for many years. But that wasn't enough for me. I wanted to make bigger changes. Working with lawyers who help disabled people, we sued the HOA for every person who had been bullied. The evidence was clear. Text messages, emails, and meeting notes showed they tried to drive out families with disabled members, people of different races, and gay couples. Sarah was brave enough to tell her story in court. She sat in her wheelchair, looking straight at Mrs. Baker as she described what happened. "It felt like I couldn't breathe," Sarah said quietly. "Not just because I was hanging there, but because someone hated me so much just for being different." 3 months later, Mrs. Baker sat in court wearing an orange jail uniform instead of her fancy clothes. The judge gave her sentence, 12 years in prison for attacking Sarah and helping in the bribery scheme. "Your actions were very cruel," the judge said. "Using your power to hurt the weakest in your community, including a disabled child, shows a level of meanness this court rarely sees. Her husband, Judge Baker, got 20 years for taking bribes and using his position to help criminals. As guards took her away, Mrs. Baker looked at me. For the first time, I saw fear in those cold eyes that had once looked at my daughter with such hate. The HOA was shut down, and the neighborhood created a new group with strict rules against bullying. The street lamp where Sarah had been hung was taken down and replaced with a playground that all children could use, even those in wheelchairs. Sarah spent months in therapy, working through her fear and trauma. Some nights she would wake up screaming, feeling like she was hanging again. I would hold her until she fell back asleep, promising that she was safe now. Slowly, she began to heal. She started a blog about her experience, which helped other disabled kids who had faced bullying. She became a voice for kids who couldn't speak up for themselves. 1 year after the attack, Sarah spoke to a crowd at the opening of the new playground. She wore a bright blue dress and had flowers in her hair. As I pushed her wheelchair to the front, the crowd cheered. Last year, on my dad's birthday, I learned how mean people can be, she began, her voice strong. But I also learned how powerful justice is. That lamppost that was once used to hurt me is now gone. In its place is a park where all children are welcome. She looked over at the playground, where kids of all abilities were already playing together. In our new playground, there are ramps so kids in wheelchairs can play too. There are special swings for kids who need extra support. There are quiet spaces for kids who get overwhelmed by noise. This is what a real community looks like, a place where everyone belongs. She looked at me, smiling. My dad always told me that bad people might seem strong for a while, but good will always win in the end. I didn't fully believe him until I saw it happen myself. Everyone clapped as Sarah cut the ribbon to open the playground. Watching her, surrounded by friends and neighbors who had finally found courage to speak up, I felt a deep peace. Sarah had changed from a victim to a helper, using what happened to her to make things better for others. That night, as I tucked Sarah into bed, something we still did even though she said she was too old for it, she held my hand. "Dad," she whispered, "remember what that mean woman said about me making the neighborhood look bad?" "Try not to think about that, sweetie," I said, brushing her hair back. "No, it's okay," Sarah said with a small smile. I checked online. Since she went to jail and the new group took over, houses here are worth more money. It turns out, people like living in places where everyone is welcome and leaders aren't criminals. I laughed, amazed by how strong my daughter was. "You're amazing, you know that?" "I learned it from you," she replied, yawning. "Best birthday present ever, by the way." "What present?" I asked, confused. "Catching bad guys and making our neighborhood better," Sarah said sleepily. "Way better than the watch we got you." As she fell asleep, I thought about how one cruel act had led to so much good. Mrs. Baker had seen my daughter as an easy target. She never thought she was messing with the child of an FBI agent who caught powerful criminals for a living. But more importantly, she never knew that real strength isn't about power or control. It's about bouncing back from hard times and turning pain into something good, just like Sarah did. By trying to keep control, Mrs. Baker had actually started something that changed our whole community. The lamppost where she hung my daughter was gone now, replaced by the sound of children laughing and playing, children on foot, on bikes, and in wheelchairs, all together in a place where everyone belonged. And that was a lesson Karen would have 12 long years in prison to think about.